Academy Award-winning actress Ingrid Bergman once said, "Happiness is good health and a bad memory." That might be true for some people, but after a few aggravating instances of drawing a blank in your own recollection, most of us might wish our memories were stronger. But what if you didn't forget? What if your memory allowed you to recall the past almost perfectly, even the tiniest details? Some people claim they can, with what's commonly referred to as photographic memory. You might describe it as storing images in the mind, but is it really possible to keep a mental photograph?
When you think of what people mean by photographic memory, in theory they mean somebody who looks at something and remembers it perfectly. But actually that never really happens.
That's Dr. Barry Gordon, a professor of neurology and cognitive science at Johns Hopkins University.
What you do find is people can look at something and remember it extremely, extremely well, but not the way they remember a photograph. For example, they would look at it and remember the significance of different parts, or their memories may fade a little bit or be enhanced in some areas. And people differ in how well they can do that. So there are people who can look at a page in a book, look away, and virtually see the page in their mind for a while. But it's actually not a true photograph for most people. It's a kind of image, a recollection that just happens to be extremely detailed.
So, what's the difference between that and a photographic memory? Gordon says it's a matter of degree. Nobody remembers everything, even if some people's memories exceed normal standards.
The closest in real life to what we think of as photographic memory is what's called eidetic imagery. It's as if there is a picture in the mind that people can look at. But even that is not quite a true photograph. Although it's detailed, it can have areas that are blurry or not as distinct. It happens that eidetic imagery almost never persists in adults. It's seen in some children, and by some estimates, 2 to 10% of kids have eidetic imagery, but almost no adult retains it for reasons that are not clear. The third thing you find is people who simply have extremely good memories and can use words and other things to remember images and pictures, rather than actually seeing something. When you think they have a photographic memory, it's because they actually remember the words so well. They remember spatial locations. They remember details that you wouldn't think anybody would have paid any attention to that they do.
But having an extraordinary memory doesn't necessarily mean someone never forgets. Gordon says that someone who remembers just about everything in one area may be pretty normal, or even worse in others.
Human beings have a lot of different kinds of memories. So there's no single memory that people have. They have lots of memory abilities. So if you look across the range of people, you'll discover people who are perfectly normal on the surface, but who have either very good or very bad abilities in a particular area. The ability in one area, even in memory, isn't predictive of your ability in another area. So, for example, a while back there was a woman who won the Memory Olympics, which means she could remember long strings of numbers far better than anybody else could. But, as she pointed out, at home she had a bunch of yellow stickies on her refrigerator because she couldn't remember what she had to buy. Her memory was very good for long strings of numbers and I think maybe words, but it wasn't good for remembering the things she had to buy for the apartment.
Gordon says that people with strong memories often don't realize it and assume that everyone remembers like they do. So what if you think your memory is extraordinary? Gordon says you might want to double check on that.
When people have put out calls for individuals who think they have extraordinary memories, almost always the people that show up don't have extraordinary memories. They just think they do. The people that often have the best memories think of it as completely natural and don't realize it's different than what other people have.
But just because you weren't born with a superb memory doesn't mean you can't improve what you've got. Gordon explains there are a variety of ways to help cultivate a better memory.
One thing is they have to actually want to get better. You have to make it active. There's actually a lot of different instructions that all boil down to basically actively using the memory. So I would use your name repeatedly. And you may have noticed if you ever meet a politician that they're repeating your name constantly to help them remember it.
In fact, there are some folks who train their memories pretty much full-time. They call themselves memory athletes, and Dr. Henry Roediger and his research team at Washington University in St. Louis study how they do it. Memory athletes stage competitions against each other and use interesting techniques to improve their scores.
The people are just amazing. They can do things that you and I just can't believe. Usually, say, if I give you digits to remember Most normal people can remember somewhere about 7, maybe 9 or 10 at the upper in order. So if I were to read you, a meaningless set of numbers, just random numbers one at a time. But these people who have these extraordinary memory capabilities, if you read them a list of 100 digits, they can usually say them right back to you. And how are they doing that, you ask? Well, they are using images. One of the men, Simon Reinhardt, has 10,000 images that he has associated with every possible 4-digit number. So, for example, the set of digits 2681 might mean elephant for him. So he hears 2681, he gets an elephant, then he hears 4 other digits, he gets another image, hooks the elephant to the other image, and so forth, through 100, 200 digits.
Roediger says that memory athletes aren't really that different from the rest of us. At least they probably started out that way, but they've worked at it.
They're all using fundamentally the same technique, which involves imagery, but they all have different takes on it. So Simon Reinhardt's the only one who uses 4 numbers to have one image. Other people have 3 numbers that are one image. So one idea is why Reinhardt is better is he was able to memorize this gigantic set of 10,000 images to do digits, whereas most people didn't take the effort to memorize those 10,000 images.
But that doesn't mean some people find that easier than others. Gordon says some people are simply predisposed to excel at memory. As in any other skill, it takes talent to go along with the work.
Just as you know people who might be good at, say, running, and other people who are good at golf, so you might call it a kind of athletic ability, well, there's as many different forms of mental ability as there are athletic ability. And you can't necessarily expect somebody who's going to be good at one to be good at the other.
So while photographic memory may not actually exist, the ability to remember varies. Scientists still aren't sure why some people possess better memories than others. But people who want a stronger memory can get better with some effort. You can find out more about all of our guests at radiohealthjournal.net. Our production directors are Sean Waldron and Nick Hofstra. I'm Lynn Holly.
The stage is set for women's soccer's biggest tournament, and one defender on the U.S. team is using a secret recovery drink to help her prepare. The U.S. team's Kelly O'Hara says it's chocolate milk. The average soccer player runs at least 7 miles in a game. Backed by more than 20 scientific studies, low-fat chocolate milk has high-quality protein to build lean muscle and nutrients to help muscles recover. One study on soccer players shows that post-exercise consumption of low-fat chocolate milk provided equal or possibly superior muscle recovery compared to a high-carbohydrate recovery beverage with the same amount of calories.
What you do on the field can only be a positive if you take care of what you need to off the field, and that means recovery. I first started drinking chocolate milk in college when one of my assistant coaches said there were studies that proved that low-fat chocolate milk was great for recovery. So after practice, we would get out 2 big gallons and drink it together as a team. It tastes great, has high-quality protein, and is backed by science. What's better to put into your body than that?
Visit builtwithchocolatemilk.com to learn more.
47 million people around the world are living with Alzheimer's and other dementias. On June 21st, the longest day of the year, teams around the world will honor the strength, passion, and endurance of people with Alzheimer's and their caregivers. The longest day is a sunrise to sunset challenge to raise awareness and funds to fuel the care, support, and research programs of the Alzheimer's Association. Here's Angela Geiger, Chief Strategy Officer at the Alzheimer's Association.
The longest day is just one day, but for people with Alzheimer's and their caregivers, the challenge is every day. On June 21st, participants in the longest day will be active from sunrise to sunset with activities ranging from running, cooking, and knitting to playing bridge. Participate or donate to show those facing Alzheimer's disease that they're not alone.
The longest day is part of Alzheimer's and Brain Awareness Month during June. To make a donation or learn more, visit alz.org/thelongestday. That's alz.org/thelongestday.